to the All-Star Break edition of One Cardinal, One Cup, and One Beer. I can't wait. I will wait to do the corner till I get the introductions, but I went from Australia or Mexico to Australia to Ireland. So now I am coming back to the good old Midwest. We're going to do a Milwaukee beer. I'm excited about that. I do want to say before we get into the beer, like us on Facebook. Contact us through one card, one cup, one beer at gmail.com. You can support us through Patreon. You go to patreon.com, search for One Cardinal, One Cup, and One Beer, and you can support our efforts for $3, $5, or $10 a month. And all of our proceeds are greatly appreciated. We love our Patreon people, all two of them. Way to go! So,
It's,
uh,
it's,
go ahead.
it's building. It's
It's
building.
building. It's building. We do about one a year. This is great. So,
Yeah.
um, for those of you who are watching on YouTube, please subscribe to our YouTube channel so that you will be notified whenever we drop a new episode. If you'd like to be a guest on one of our panels, if you have an interesting, fascinating baseball story, anecdote, expertise, any of those things, and you would like to be on the show to share your wisdom, knowledge, funny story, whatever with us, get a hold of me and JJ. You can email us, you can send us a DM, you can make a comment on the podcast or the YouTube channel. Say, hey, I'm a specialist on how they line up second base. No one knows it like me. I mean, that would be fascinating stuff.
I'd love that.
Yeah. So JJ, how are you doing?
Pretty good. I want to wish you, this is our 91st episode. Happy 91st episode. Look at
Yeah,
that.
awesome.
We're about to triple digits.
What are we going to do for 100?
I don't know. We might have to have a special guest star or something. We'll have to. I'm talking to Wayne Newton right now, trying to get Wayne Newton to come in here and dock a Shanus.
I've been talking to Fig Newton. So
All right, we'll get bring them together.
So
Yeah, all
I
in
want
one
to
room.
I want to show you something really cool.
All right.
My daughter Violet, she went to a resale store that we frequent when we're in Springfield, and she found something for me.
Ooh.
It is Country Music Cavalcade. This is country, the magic touch of Eddie Arnold.
I remember Eddie.
It came out in '77. There are
Good
four
shape.
albums. Pardon me?
It's in good shape.
Yeah, the albums are in immaculate shape. You're pulling out of here. Boy, this is riveting, isn't it?
I remember Eddie Arnold. I couldn't tell you any of his songs, but I remember him on Hee Haw and seeing him on TV a lot.
Bouquet of Roses. If I Ever Make It. I mean, look at that.
Oh
That is.
yeah.
I don't think this was barely played, and all four albums are like this. So pretty cool. Thank you, Violet. And you know me. First of all, country music. Nothing good came after Randy Travis. All right, I did like Toby Keith. I will admit that. But
Well, Chris Stapleton. He's a newer guy. He's no doesn't grab you. Okay, that's fair.
I don't know. I don't turn on the radio. I just listen to my own playlist. And rock music, as far as I'm concerned, that peaked in the late '90s, and I've really had no interest in anything since then. In other words, I'm old. Get off my lawn.
There is a channel on Sirius, Outlaw Country. It's pretty.
Yes.
It's very good.
And there's Willie's Roadhouse too.
Oh yes, yeah, and Hillbilly Jim from the old WWF. He as a DJ there, and he handles about 2 hours. Johnny Knoxville and his uncle, they're hilarious. It's a little. They work a little blue, little R plus rated
Really?
material. Yes, but it's so good, and they play some songs I've never heard. Very good. So if you get a chance, both of those channels on Sirius.
Awesome. Well, let's get into the beer corner. Like I showed you, our beer today is Pabst Blue Ribbon
Blue
beer.
Ribbon.
In 1848, Jacob Best established a brewery in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and he produced, guess how many barrels the first year?
1,000. I
Close.
don't know.
No,
Oh,
you're not
really?
even close. 300.
300.
That was the
Oh,
bigger beginnings of Jacob Best's brewery. That was in 1848. In 1859, it started moving a little bit, and Best's daughter Maria marries a boat captain called, his last name's Pabst. Everybody called him Captain Pabst. And he was actually a boat captain. If you know about Milwaukee, he sits on the that's Lake Milwaukee, right? Lake Michigan? Michigan.
I believe that Michigan. Yeah,
Lake Michigan, yeah. I
I
almost
believe so.
Lake Milwaukee. Yeah, it's Lake Michigan. So it is a port town. And so he came in there and I guess he saw Maria. Maria swept him off his feet, or he swept her off his feet, or there were feet involved, I guess. And so after he marries Maria, Captain Paps decides, you know what? It's kind of dangerous to captain boats in the uh, Great Lakes. So I think I'll take over this brewery if it's okay with you. And Jacob Best said, sure, I like you as my son-in-law, have the brewery. And by 1872, just 13 years after he took it over, uh, the Best Brewery becomes the second largest brewery in America. And in 1882, he wins the Blue Ribbon for the best beer in America. So he calls his beer Pabst Blue Ribbon Beer. Okay. And at that time, he also changed the brewery from Best Brewery to Pabst. And by the 1960s, Pabst Blue Ribbon became America's most popular brand. Since then, in the 70s, Budweiser took over, and then Pabst just started to wane and kind of continued to wane. And, it kind of became a very secondary beer rather quickly. But in the 2000s, it had a renaissance because it became popular with the college crowd. It became a trendy beer for college students, and also became trendy with upper middle class men for some reason. And I think this is probably men who, when they were kids, their dads, probably a blue collar class, drank Pabst Blue Ribbon, and then they went to college, had families and everything. And it's, what I'd really like? I'd really like me a Pabst Blue Ribbon beer. When you hit upper middle class, you start to talk like that. So anyway, it's still around today, and I'm going to open this.
Oh, yeah.
I've got my frosted mug, world's greatest grandpa.
So, Paps, there's no special rules. There's some you didn't frost the mug, poop. Paps, you can drink it any way you want
Yeah,
it, right?
Paps, you'd want a frosty mug with this.
All right.
All right. And you get that golden.
Oh, yeah.
Golden,
Look at that.
yeah, that's an American beer. You don't have that other stuff we had. Was it last week when we had um
You had that one that turned colors. It got oxygenated or something in it.
maybe that.
Was that
Yeah.
Foster? I don't.
No, Foster's was the Australian beer, the Irish beer. Ah, shoot. Oh well. We'll figure it out later.
Yeah, write in if you remember. Oh, there you go. Chug, chug, chug.
What I like about Pabst, and I knew I was going to like it because I've had it before.
Oh.
When I did drink beer before I was diabetic back in the late 90s, Pabst is kind of my beer of choice because it's not too terribly expensive, but it doesn't taste like cheap beer, and it's very smooth. It's easy to drink, I guess you could say. So definitely, this is going to get a 4-star for me, and then I'm going to throw in a half-star for the nostalgia for it. So 4.5 stars for Pabst Blue Ribbon Beer.
All right.
People throw up in their mouths like, hey, gosh, that stuff. JJ, give us an update on that fantasy league that we are.
Oh, yeah. We're getting down to the middle of July now. I think we're actually right in the dead middle of it. So there's really only like 6 weeks to go till we hit our first World Series. So I'll start in the American League, and Ray Hartman and the Boston Red Sox have held on for 2 weeks in a row. Of course, it was a short week last week because we had the All-Star break. but he's 53 and 42, and he's really enjoying it. He's always sat down there about third or fourth and slowly crept up and took over. And the Red Sox are playing good ball, so this could be interesting. The Seattle Mariners have crept, they're holding second place by themselves. That's Andrew Gieselman, our beer man from Busch Stadium, and he's 2.5 back. Brody Jackson starting to fade. The Royals are still playing good. They came into St. Louis and slapped us around, and they are 2 back. I'm sorry. Oh, yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. It'd be the Royals in second, the Mariners in third, 2.5 back. The Tigers are starting to fade a little bit, 7 games back. That's Tony Pruno. California Angels, Candy Barks was on vacation. The Angels fell apart. She came back and they went on a 2-game winning streak. And she goes, they need me. They need me. So but they are 12.5 back. And finally, Dan Rutledge and the Chicago White Sox. 27 and 71, 27.5 back, almost a month back with 6 weeks to go. So things aren't looking too good for the White Sox. And I wonder what the White Sox are going to look like in the next few weeks because they have some trading pieces, some players that a lot of teams want. So we could see some activity happening there with the White Sox.
I'll tell you, concerning the Tigers and the White Sox, I have seen Tarek Skubal pitch before. So
Okay.
it's nice to see him in the All-Star game, and he always looks that dominant. And he's frequent, semi-frequent, maybe once a year guest on the Compound podcast, Ian Happ's podcast that I'm so in love with. So that's kind of cool to watch him blossom into a major league pitcher with that kind of stuff. But I saw Garrett Crochet pitch once or twice this year, and both times he looked very pedestrian. But then I see all these highlights where, 7 innings, 4 hits, 1 run, and all this other stuff. And so I was kind of really anxious to see him in the All-Star game. And boy, he really had his A game at the All-Star game. I guess most of the pitchers did, but anyway,
Yeah.
proceed.
Well, I tell you what, the thing that scares me about Crochet, he's looked great, but he's always been a reliever, and this year he's pushed more than he has. That scares me a little bit, and they're going to be wanting, the highest bidder, whoever's going to give them the best deal. That scares me just a little bit, but I tell you what, the Cardinals are in such a spot right now. We're going to have to take a chance or something if we're going to get serious here. So that's the American League, and that's led by, again, Ray Hartman. We switch over to the National League, and Kevin Lee and the Cardinals are still hanging on to first place. They're 50 and 46, but we got the Padres with Robbie Spear, a game and a half back. It's all just bunched up in the National League. We've got the Pirates and Dennis Rose, 2 games back. We've got Larry Wilde and the Chicago Cubs in fourth place, 4 games back. The Nationals, Maget had actually moved up, Tom Maget, and now they're kind of going back down. They're 6.5 back, and so they're in that spot where they better pick it up because there's only like 6 weeks left. And then in last place, and they were starting to play pretty good ball, but the Rockies have started to fade a little bit, more so. They were playing like 500 ball. Now they're starting to go back down, but they're 16.5 back, and that's our good friend Brandon Schmidt from Cincinnati, Ohio. So right now, 6 weeks approximately to go, it would be Boston and St. Louis in our first World Series, but there's too much time. So many things can go on. We're going to see some trades. We're going to see some people get hurt. So we'll see what happens here. But that right now, that's our fantasy league first season.
Hey, you brought up the White Sox, and that got me thinking. There's going to be some teams that want some players, and I start thinking aside from pitchers because people are gonna want Garrett Crochet. I don't know if
Mm-hmm.
they're gonna trade him. I don't know why they would trade him. I mean, that's something you build around. I'm
Right.
thinking, okay, position players. If we keep hearing Luis Robert, we hear Jimenez every now and then, but he's so often injured, and a few others. Do you know who plays for the White Sox? Who has played for 8 different teams in 11 years, and who always seems to get traded to a contender?
And now who's that?
Our old friend Tommy Pham. So
Tommy Pham.
I'm
Um,
just wondering,
oh
Tommy
yeah.
Pham is going to end up on a playoff team.
You
I
know
know
what?
So
You're you're right. And there is a guy, a reliever that's been on the last three world champions, but I can't recall who he is. But he's just a middle reliever, but he's been on the last three world champions. I wrote down some interesting statistics, and I can't for the life of me. I don't even know why I brought it up. Can't remember it, but there is a guy who was on the last three world championship teams.
hmm.
So I tell you what, but yeah, Chicago, at this point, it's been such a disastrous season. I don't know what their minor league system looks like, but I would probably make some big moves to just go with the young kids and get some prospects. That's what I'd do. And Luis Roberts, I'd love to have him. The Cardinals almost had him, but White Sox outbid us in the international draft for him. So, things all happen for a reason.
Or not. I
Yeah.
kind of like chaos. So
Chaos is entertaining anyway, isn't it? Hey, Vince, speaking of chaos, and I don't want to be mean spirited or anything because I'm not a singer, but did you happen to hear the national anthem at the Home Run Derby?
I'm
Yes.
afraid I did.
I was sitting with a friend and I was looking like, hey, do you hear this? This is horrible. And this is like a big event. I heard some bad national anthems at like spring training. It must have been like, they just had like a draw and somebody won the right to sing the song. And you're like, oh, it's a tough song to sing. I'm nobody. I wrote down my five favorite national anthem renditions off the top of my head. Because I can't remember. I've never heard all the national anthem renditions, but here's what I come up with and see what you think. One of my favorite, and they do it for the San Francisco Giants probably many years ago, but Huey Lewis and the News would sing the national anthem at Giant games, and it would be like Huey Lewis and three of the News. And they were fantastic. There was harmonies, and he would take off and sing the lead, and it was just a different style of the national anthem. It was very, very good, you know.
In
So,
'84, the Cubs opened in San Francisco, and on opening day, Huey Lewis and News. And at this time, they had the number one album in America out. They were red hot, and that was the first time I'd ever, maybe the only time I've heard them do the national anthem. They were really good.
oh yeah, that kicked butt. I really enjoyed it too. I mean, as long as somebody's respectful, just do your best, and sometimes, hey, we're comedians. We go out there. Sometimes it doesn't work. Sometimes it doesn't happen. But man, on with all the people
Sometimes.
watching, true words never spoken. You're right, Vince. Sometimes it hits.
There
Sometimes it
used
works.
there used to be a comedian, and we were decent friends, not close friends, but I'd seen, you know, and he was new, and he wasn't that good, and that's where we all start. We're comedians. Very few start great, and people always say, "Well, Eddie Murphy, by the time he was 19, he was on Saturday Night Live." Well, first of all, Eddie Murphy, when he was a young teenager, like 14, he was getting rides to comedy clubs to do open mics, and he sucked, just like everybody else starts. So, but anyway, he would do a joke, and it would be bad, and he'd say the joke, and then nobody would laugh, and he'd say, "No, okay," and then he'd do the next joke, nobody laughed, "No, okay." It just, oh, man, I
I,
admire you and your
yeah,
enthusiasm for the no laughs.
man, that's tough. But yeah, I like his style right there. Well, I got four more. I was going to Whitney Houston at the Super Bowl, and I believe that was 1991, and with a flyover and her hitting that note at the end, that was top notch. That's how it's supposed. That's the yardstick right there. I think that's probably the greatest national anthem I've ever heard. It was very respectful, and she was such a talent, and I enjoyed that national anthem. Um, I put down I'm trying to think of the event, but it was Jimi Hendrix was the first guitar player I heard play the
Woodstock.
national anthem. Woodstock, thank you. I almost said Monterey Pop Festival. Yeah, Woodstock. He owned that. I've never heard the noises that guitar made. It was phenomenal. But Hendrix played the national anthem. Um, Chris Stapleton, he sung that song for so good. The players and the coaches were crying. That was phenomenal. I think that was at a playoff game, maybe Super Bowl. It was a football event, and that was really good. And then I put down I put down Lady Gaga. She sung the national anthem, was all dressed up, and just nailed it. She was fantastic. And then I put as a extra, I put Bleeding Gums Murphy from The Simpsons when he did like a 15-minute saxophone national anthem, and everybody was falling asleep because it went on forever. So that's my five favorite national anthems. I just had to throw that in there. I like lists.
One that stands out for me is Metallica's done a few San Francisco
Oh,
Giants
oh,
games, and
oh
they
yeah,
they rock the national anthem.
they rock it. That is so true.
Yeah. Well, this girl, it, like I said, I don't follow modern country music. I had no idea who she was. In
Me
fact,
neither.
I didn't watch much of the home run derby. I just caught bits and pieces of it. It's not a priority to me. I guess they changed the rules this year, and someone said something like, they've changed the rules. This isn't even baseball anymore. I'm thinking it's a freaking home run derby. Yeah, it's not baseball at all. No one's stealing bases. No one's striking out. No one's yelling at the umpire. Yeah, so I really don't care what the rules are. It's kind of cool to watch him hit the ball 450 feet, but so but anyway, I didn't hear her rendition until the next day. When I got on Facebook and I saw everybody's like, "Oh my gosh, that was terrible." Um, First thing that I thought of was, I don't think she's drunk. The first thing I thought was, she looks like she's on heroin. She looked terrible.
She looked rough, that's for
Yeah.
sure.
And our friend, good New York Mets fan, Mark Mariano,
Mark,
he put on Facebook that he didn't believe that she was inebriated because he didn't see how Major League Baseball would let somebody go in who's inebriated. Well, I take the opposite point of view. Um, they probably had some lowly person with all those baseball stars there, lowly person. Okay, we need you to pick up the singer, bring her here. And probably some intern or something brought her in. But yeah, she was on something, alcohol or whatever. And so, Mark, I do see how that they could have let her in that way. And as I put on his post, I just hope when she goes into rehab, they provide her with a comb because her hair was a mess.
Jamal Gardner was the first one, our old Chicago Cub friend. He was said something on the internet. I was like, I thought I was the only one that heard it, and then it seemed like after that, here it all come. But some of my favorite singers sang drunk. Hank Jr. I don't think I've ever seen him sober singing. Dean Martin and Ozzy Osbourne. I don't even know what he's on, but he always sounds pretty good.
Oh, I went to go see a very popular comedian at the old Comedy Etc. in Fairview Heights in the late 90s, no, early 2000s.
Okay.
And I went to the Late Show, and he was so drunk, he was leaning up against the wall with the mic, just telling his jokes monotone. I thought,
Oh,
come on, dude, I paid good money to see you, and this is what
oh,
I'm getting. So if you can sing inebriated, I don't care. I'm sure I'm seeing a lot of drunk people sing. But for the most part, singing is hard when you're sober. It's got to be doubly hard when you're drunk. So
yeah. It's nervous. You get your nerves. You got a live audience. There's an echo in the stadium, and then you got all those people on TV. A lot of people would probably hit a little something to get in there and be able to have the courage to stand in front of those people and sing. So I wish her the best. I hope she finds her way and gets back. I never heard of her. I hope she has a long career, and this is just a little glitch along the way.
yeah.
Yeah.
So, what did you think about the home run derby?
I enjoyed it. I was up at Heavy Anchor. A good friend of ours, Chad Wallace, had his birthday party up there. A bunch of comedians and his family. His wife made lasagna or muscatcholi and pulled pork. They had a big food layout in the back.
Okay.
Vince, it was
Yeah, I
great.
wish I would have went.
Yeah, you should have. But there was like 50 comedians there. This one went on all night. I left about 11 o'clock because I had to get home. But Dan Rutledge had the Chicago White Sox guy had his phone up and we watched it. And one of the bartenders was from Cleveland because he was wanting to know, let me know when Jose Ramirez comes up. And basically it was eight people, 8 players, 4 from each league, and they went at it, and the top 4 went on, and then they put them in brackets. And it came down to the final shot for Bobby Witt Jr., and it just fell short. And Tarasco Hernandez from the Dodgers, matter of fact, the first Dodger to ever win the home run derby, won it. And it was cool. It was fun. The teammates were out there, everybody's oohing and on. But Vince, I like there was an old TV show, Home Run Derby, where they took 2 people. You played, I know, it was simple. You got 3 shots. If you didn't go over the wall, that was an out, and that's an inning. And then they just kind of kept score like a ball game. And I remember you'd see Willie Mays and Mickey Mantle, and they'd be talking to Mickey while Willie's swinging. And it was just fun. They usually did it. I remember when I seen it, they did it at Wrigley Field, during, I guess, a day off or something like that. And it was an empty stadium, and it was just a really good time. So that's the way I kind of like it. I wish they just do it like that. It might take too long. I think it was 3 hours long. That's what the major complaint's been. Is just entertaining, fun, but 3 hours of it was a little bit long for some folks.
Yeah, I didn't watch it much when Chris Berman was doing it because Chris Berman, I liked him in the 80s.
NFL.
No, I liked him when he would do the nicknames. I
Yes.
thought his nicknames were really cool.
Oh, yes.
But other than that, he just seemed to get annoying. And gosh, he made a terrible joke once. I think it was Todd Frazier hit a home run or something. And he's like, down goes Frazier or something. And that was like the day that Ali died.
Oh,
it was
that's a bad
just,
timing. Yeah.
yeah, I'm
Oh,
not a Chris Berman fan, but
I like him doing highlights, like a baseball or football game highlights, because he's rumbling, stumbling, or I get tired of the back every time somebody would hit the ball. But he was great nicknames, and I love him because he was enthusiastic, had a lot of enthusiasm as he did it. But yeah, home run derby wasn't his forte, I don't think.
yeah. So, oh, what'd you think of the All-Star game?
I really enjoyed it, seeing everybody. But Vince, I go on like this. Baseball's classic. Don't mess with it too much. It's like Vince Hopper, a classic. You don't paint a Fu Manchu on Vince Hopper. He's a classic. Let the players wear their uniforms. I thought I was the only one that was like, oh, yeah, and Vince feels the same way, but we feel like, well, they're probably not going to do anything. But I think there's a groundswell here where people are like, hey, we want to see our guys represent our team in our uniforms. You can still have a patch or something like that, but uh, that's the only downplay I have, because I remember I would get so excited as they went down and announced, and then they got to the Cardinal guys. All right, we got 2 guys in the game this year. This will be great. And but as far as the game used to, the starters would go 2 or 3 innings. It's kind of neat to see Jack Morris or Randy Johnson take on like the first 6 guys. But now everybody just pitches 1 inning. I understand it's a long season. You don't want a pitcher get hurt, but to see the top pitchers go a couple of innings, I kind of wish they did more of that. It's
Yeah,
tough. They're bringing
I,
1 guy in at a time, and they're just throwing all out. It's tough.
I heard Steve Stone interviewed, and he started the game in 1980, and he pitched 3 innings, 9
Yeah.
up, 9 down. But yeah, the 1 inning and put the starter in for 2 innings. That would be
Oh
fine.
yeah.
And
You've won that honor, and let him pitch a couple innings. I'm with you, Vince.
yeah, what would have made the uniforms better is if they would have at least been able to wear their hats, the
Yeah.
team hats, because I couldn't tell who was who. Number one. Number two, did they have a contest that, okay, everybody submit your uniforms and we're going to pick the ugliest ones to be in this game? I was, I sent a text to a friend of the show, Shannon Logan, and she said something like, what do you think about the uniforms? I said, they look like they're in pajamas. They were embarrassingly bad. I'm thinking, if you can wear whatever shoes you want, why not wear the team hat? But
Yeah.
I, you know, I was thinking, okay, I know why they do this because this is another revenue stream. But who's going to buy those ugly uniforms? Seriously, nobody, unless you want pajamas. Um, so I have seen, and I haven't read much on it, but I've seen the headlines that, Major League Baseball is going to consider going back to wearing their own uniforms because uh, the guy that hit the home run from the Red Sox,
Oh,
Durant,
Jared. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, I wasn't paying much attention when he was up, and when the ball went out, I thought, "Oh, wow, who hit that?" And usually you could look and see whose uniform. I just saw a uniform going around the bases because by that point I didn't see the back. I'm thinking, "Who the hell is that? Did the bat boy hit a home run? I don't know." So
Oh, shoot. I want to say something though. I did like. They really shot these vignettes because they're down in Arlington, and they were like cowboys, and the you saw a lot of the players' personalities, and I think the NFL and hockey and basketball, more than the team, they spotlight the superstars, and we're the us and most of our listeners, we're a little different. We're not your normal baseball fans. We're kind of we go the extra mile. But the average fan may not know what this, what NHAP looks like or William Contreras. They may not know. So I like that they're, and MLB is doing a commercial like it be Gunnar Henderson. And in between innings, there's like a 30-second video where you see Gunnar Henderson and they'll really talk them up and everything. And I like how baseball is doing that. They're really pushing their stars out there so fans can really get to know them and more personality. They're miking the guys. You can hear how they're thinking sometimes out on the field and everything. And I think that's good for the game. So it's just not just like a robot thing. There's personalities and friendships. I like how guys have played together forever and they get over on first base and they talk, and for the most part, I think they all are in the same business and they care about each other. They play a competitive game, but it's not like the old days where Bob Gibson wouldn't talk to anybody on the other team. You were the enemy. I think it's a little different than that now, and they're just promoting the game, and I like that. I like that. Wrigley Field, promote that place. That's a special place, man.
yeah, I really like the three Phillies being mic'd up on the infield: Bohm, Turner, and Harper. I that was fun to see the daily banner that they have when they're at work. And you can see during the All-Star game. And then at one time they had in the American League the three outfielders: Soto, Judge, and who was it left at that time? I don't remember, but they had the three outfielders mic'd up. I thought that was really cool. The vignettes, I wasn't a big fan of, because they were okay. I get it; it's Texas theme, so on and so forth, Cowboys and everything
Yeah.
else. But I didn't think it really showed the player's personality. I think it just showed, okay, you're going to ride the bull and fall off. You know, probably players who've never ridden a bull before in their lives. And I'm sure that, like Jose Ramirez, when he fell off the mechanical bull, I'm sure that they actually put him down. I'm sure he didn't actually fall off and risk injury. I
Oh yeah.
wasn't a huge fan of the vignettes. I am a huge fan of getting the players' personalities out there. But you are 100% correct. Baseball is so far behind the other major sports. You figured out early on, you market the stars and not the team. And baseball has slowly come around to that to a degree. Because when I started watching baseball, yeah, I rooted for the Cubs, but I wanted to I wanted to watch the game of the week, because the Royals are playing the Yankees, and I want to see George Brett, and I want to see Reggie Jackson strike out because I hated him as a player.
I
Nothing
understand.
against him as a human being, but he was a Yankee.
Yeah.
Detroit. When I was a kid, they had Tito Fuentes on there. Tito Fuentes
Oh
was like a
yeah.
showboat. And if Detroit
Ah.
was playing, I would watch Tito Fuentes, and I would watch Johnny Walkenfuss, who had the weirdest batting
Yeah.
stance, because that was kind of cool to watch this kind of stuff.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
so I watched baseball. I rooted for the Cubs, but I really got into it because there were particular players that I wanted to see. And football figured that out. The NBA probably was the first to figure it out. Dr. J, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, to Magic, to Bird, to Jordan, you mark
Dak.
stars, and then football has come there, and even hockey. With Gretzky. They will market Gretzky and Messier, and then through the years when hockey has been going on. Not a huge hockey fan, but
Yeah.
baseball, it just seemed like that they kind of lag behind a little bit. And
Um. Oh,
baseball players can be prickly. I have heard so many announcers and media type people saying that the worst players to interview are baseball players because they're in a daily grind, they get grumpy, and that hockey players, for some reason, are always the best to interview. So
well, it's a long season. People are grabbing you. I can see when they're trying to leave the field, different people, hey, we need you to talk 2 minutes here. And, you probably get worn out on that. And I'm with you. Vince, I also noticed we're in a golden age of shortstops right now. Back in 2001, I believe it was, we had, I mean, Jeter, A-Rod, Tejada, Garcia, um, just on and on. Rollins. There was so many, Renteria. There was some very good shortstops in 2001, but I think this might be the new golden age of shortstops. We had two shortstops competing in the home run derby. This is a different breed of shortstops. You had Cal Ripken Jr., who had power, and he was a big for shortstops. But just look at our division. Oh, so you had Bobby Witt and Gunnar Henderson in the home run derby, which I don't think you would have ever seen before in the past years. And just in our division, this is the cream of the crop shortstops going on. But even the Nationals, Abrams, I think he's fantastic. The Brewers have Adamas. You guys have Swanson, Mason Wynn, a big, hopefully, star on the way up. Uh,
they
O'Neill Cruz,
are.
and the Reds guy, phenomenal. It's just you can't take your eyes off of him out there playing. So I really, if you get a chance, watch these shortstops. You guys may not know this. This is like the biggest group of shortstops I've ever seen. They're so athletic. That is probably a catcher, shortstop, center field is probably and pitcher, of course, three hardest positions to play. And you're out there, you're diving, you're throwing, you're running with your back to home plate, making throws across the infield. And I don't think you could be even considered a contender if you didn't have a top-notch shortstop. And there's so many good ones now. I bet you out of 30 teams, there's 20 top-notch shortstops in the game, which is pretty incredible.
Now,
So,
remember when we were growing up, who the great shortstops were? Concepcion, uh, Mark Belanger, um, Larry Boa,
oh, Bo was
Ozzie
good.
Smith. Um, these were perennial all stars who Don Kessinger, many of them couldn't hit 250, but shortstop was not an offensive position. It was defense first. And your shortstop was always a smaller guy who was quick because they wanted to emphasize quick reflexes going and getting the ball and being able to, jump to avoid the runner, a guy sliding into second. And then it seemed like Cal Ripken Jr. kind of changed that because he was 6'3", um, long and rangy, and then suddenly you
Hey,
start seeing the A-Rods and these guys
oh,
playing
yeah.
short that are bigger, that are more athletic, and now you generally with a shortstop you're looking for someone who's very athletic who can do all the defensive plays, and when you have someone who's big and athletic, usually they're a good hitter.
Oh, yeah. Great arm. I wonder if these guys who are 6'5" and taller, if they're going to be a shortstop when they're 30. Right now, they're young and fast and, you know, flexible. when they start hitting their 30-year-old, they might have to move to third or first base. I don't know. That's going to be something to see because we've never seen guys this size play shortstop, you know. So
Yeah. Or long stop, as they might want to start calling.
hey, I like that. Very good.
So what stood out? Any performances in the game stand out to you, Imanaga?
Vince, you told me about this kid. Yeah. Well, you told me about this kid on this podcast from the Oakland A's. Morris is the short the reliever for the Oakland
Mason
A's.
Mason Miller.
Mason Miller. Okay. Wow. 103.4 miles an hour. I think it's the fastest pitch in All-Star history since they've had a way to record the speed or something like that. Or I don't know. Somehow he had some sort of record. And watching him pitch, oh man, it's vicious. It's electric. I really like watching him. Um, I like watching, like you said, the Phillies and the Dodgers. There was so much that 40% of the National League was Dodgers and Phillies, and I like to see those guys who played together. You know, they're a little more fluid out there. That was fun. Um, Otani, he just never seemed. I hope the Dodgers should be in the playoffs, but it's going to be fun to see Otani in the playoffs this year when the lights are big and the eyes are all focused on him, which they already are. But now the games mean a little bit more to see him in the big time because he's never got to play in the playoffs. And last night, I believe they were talking about Otani. Man, this guy's something else, and then he hit a home run, and the National League was up for a moment. So that guy just never ceases to amaze me. He could be the MVP this year and not even pitch. That's how good he is.
Yeah, I liked. I was happy that Cole Reagans had a good inning. Uh, Pitching for the Royals and the guy they got in the trade that sent Chapman to the Rangers last year. And I saw his major league debut last year, and I've kind of been following him, and he's the real deal. I was happy that my player Imanaga had a 1-2-3 inning. Of course, that last out was a pretty well hit ball that the left fielder got to. Um, I was kind of, and I know that some players need breaks, and if anyone needs a break, it's Ryan Helsley because he has
He rode
been
him hard.
pitching. Anytime you have a lead, he's in there, so he needs the break. But that kind of goes back to, well, if he's not going to pitch, um, you can still go and say I can't participate, whatever. I think they should have had another Cardinal. I think Mason Wentz should have been there. They should have done something to get a Cardinal who is a team above 500, who's in the playoff hunt, who is a storied franchise. Uh, they should have had another representative that was going to play. Because I kind of thought, I'm living in St. Louis. I want to see Ryan Helsley play, and he doesn't play. It's like, well, whatever. But I would have liked to have seen him play.
Me too.
Uh, but I did like the I even knew when Otani hit the home run, it's 3-0. I thought the National League will find a way to lose it because the National League can't win these games. So
When we were kids, they did. They
all
would
the
win most
time.
of the time, all the time. And then somewhere along the line, it's went the other way for a long time now. They dominate now.
Yeah, yeah. Any other opening chat you want to talk?
I always look for statistics. And Vince, they say some statistics will never be broken. I don't have the number in front of me. I wrote some stuff down I found a neat statistic. They talk about like Nolan Ryan strikeouts, Ricky Henderson stolen bases, DiMaggio's hitting streak. But I found an interesting statistic that will probably never be broken. Our old friend, Bartolo Colon, who I love, he's a character. Bartolo played forever, and he played when pitchers had to bat. And evidently, Bartolo Colon, it's either 630 swings or 330 swings, something like that. In 630 swings, his helmet only stayed on 27 times. His helmet would go flying every time he swung the bat. That is a stat that will never be broken, ladies and gentlemen. Right there. I thought I'd just throw that out there. That'll probably be on a trivia contest sometime.
And there are people who keep track of this.
I know. And there's people like me that look it up. It's something.
Somebody is getting paid to keep track of crap like this to entertain people like you. That's what they're.
That's right. Oh
Who's
yeah. I
lost
love
their
it.
how the most or the lowest, the highest percentage in baseball or whatever? Yeah.
Oh man.
What's going on in Cardinal news?
Well, during that break, we had the draft. We had the baseball draft. And the Cardinals were picking seventh. We actually have not picked that low in a long time. I think the last time I got it written down here. But now we have a lottery system, and we actually were worse than the pick we got. The Reds somehow got a higher draft pick. The lottery fell in their favor. So we were seventh. And Vince, there was a kid. I'm from Arkansas. There was a left-hander from Arkansas, uh, Hagen Smith, I believe. He's a left-hander. He was phenomenal in college. Some rank him the second pitcher. He was a left-hander. I was hoping he'd fall to us, but the White Sox grabbed him. So I'm like, all right, we've got this kid, JJ. I like his name right off the bat. Uh, Weatherholt, and he played for West Virginia. Good looking kid. He's one of his family members is Korean, looks like a movie star, plays second and shortstop. He some of his statistics are just out of this world. He's 5'10, 190. He bats left, throws right. He's an infielder. Now, it said shortstop, but he's played second base a lot too. And all of a sudden, when I watch this kid's highlights, you can go on YouTube and watch anybody's 5 minute highlight reel. Of course, on the highlight reel, everybody looks like, everybody looks like
Every time they swing, it's a home run. I can't believe it.
every stolen base is safe, every
Yeah.
play they make. So, you got to pump the brakes. But I tell you what, this kid, he's got a little sassafras to him, but he steals bases. He played for West Virginia, like I said. Um, he was the earliest selection for the Cardinals since 1997 because the Cardinals usually are a competitive team until last year. And that's when in the fifth pick in the first round, we took JD Drew, and everybody remembers how that turned out. Had a lot of promise, but JD Drew was a big disappointment. No one's ever made as much money as JD Drew for doing as less as he did in the big leagues. That's the truth. Anyway, he's a 22-year-old kid, and in 2023, he won the batting title in Division One with a 449 batting average. My gosh, that's like Stratomatic or backyard wiffle ball right there. He played, and they in college he played about 60 games, 36 stolen bases, and he's got a career 331 batting average in college, or maybe it's a 370. Yeah, 370 in 3 years batting average, 29 home runs, 49 doubles, 129 RBIs, and his walks to strikeouts are about equal. Strikes out a little bit more than he walks. Hey, everything I'm seeing so far is good. Of course, he's using an aluminum bat and he's playing college kids. Okay, he's 22, which is about the same age as Jordan Walker, who came straight out of high school. I'm just excited about seeing this kid. I have dreams of him and Wynn playing up the middle, and this could be something special to see. But anyway, we took him in the first round, and a lot of people projected him to go first. And he had a hamstring injury and didn't play as much and didn't have as gaudy statistics. So the Guardians had the number one pick, and they took a second baseman from who is actually an Australian person. So it's the first second baseman to be taken first and Australian to be taken with the first pick. Good for them, but good for us because this kid fell to us and we got him. And some say maybe one of the steals of the draft. So we'll see. It's early. Baseball is not unlike any other sport. You can't predict success in the big leagues. That's a completely different animal. But I like what I see so far. So that was our first pick. And I also wrote down, I'm a statistic nut, famous first round seventh picks. I'm just going to be brief with this. But our good friend, Frank Thomas, his name seems to always come up on the show, was a seventh pick in the first round. Nick Markakis, Prince Fielder, Troy Tulowitzki, and Clayton Kershaw were some of the people taken with the seventh pick in the first round. It's exciting. The Cardinals, after after 3 days of drafts, we took four pitchers, two right-handers, two left-handers. We took two catchers, a third baseman, and an outfielder, and then this young kid from West Virginia too. So took a little bit of everything. We'll see what happens. These kids will probably report down we'll get signed first, hopefully, and then show up down there to Florida and see what they got. And hopefully in 2 or 3 years, we see a lot of these guys start making it up to the big leagues. So to me, the draft was a lot of fun. And I like that better than the home run derby, to be honest with you. Some of the top Cardinal stories is Helsley did not play in the All-Star game, as we spoke earlier. He was resting, and I think the All-Star break came at a perfect time for the Cardinals. Our bullpen, Kittredge, I think he's just fatigued. I hope here before the trading deadline we might pick up another starter. I'm sure the Cardinals won't get anybody that's earth-shattering, but somebody who has a lot of promise or could fill in a spot or two for us, and maybe some relievers. A right-handed bat would be nice. We'll see. I don't expect Jordan Walker to be that right-handed bat. They're talking like he's going to be down there the rest of the year. Anything else? We got some games coming up after the break where we're going to be playing Atlanta in Atlanta and Pittsburgh in Pittsburgh. But just kind of briefly going over some of the games we had between our last show and the All-Star break. We played the Kansas City Royals twice. And we had a rain out. We've had a lot of rain here in Missouri. And I went to the second game, and I was hoping to see Sonny Gray, but the Cardinals moved Gray to the Cubs series. So we saw Graceffo get his first start, and he pitched like 3 1/3. He did fine, but they took him out early. Libator came in, didn't have it. They lit him up, but we lost. We got swept in that double hitter, and I just think the Royals just played better that day. We just lost. That was all. We gave them a good fight, but I don't know. We were kind of sluggish that day. Didn't look good, but we lost both games 4-1 and 8-5. And oh, the Royals catcher hit one of the longest home runs I've seen at Busch Stadium. Hit it completely over the bleachers. Donovan even lost it. He didn't know where it was and went out over in the walkway past the bleacher area. Um, and Michael Walker pitched excellent game in game two, and he had it. So we lost both games to the Royals, and you're like, oh no, hurry up, world All-Star break, get here quick. And then we had our friends the Cubs come in, and we both said, hey, I'd be happy with a split. Well, I'm happy we did get a split because I'll be honest with you guys, I think the Cubs outplayed us. I think the Royals could have easily been 3-1 in that stand, and I think we got lucky in that second game of the double hitter. The first game, the Cubs clearly outplayed us, beat us. And I tell you what, every once in a while, there's a player that has your number. I remember back in the 70s, the Mets had a first baseman, John Milner. John Milner just lit us up in the
A hammer.
2000. Oh yeah, we couldn't get the guy out. Carlos Beltran was so good, the Cardinals went and got him because we couldn't beat him. He just lit us up. Although Wainwright did get that strikeout to get us to the World Series against Carlos Beltran, but for the most part, he just tore us up. And of course, David Ortiz, and I don't even want to talk about that. But over with the Chicago Cubs, there's two guys, and I said this before. Kyle Hendricks owns us. He's like 15-4 against us.
And he
I
owns
don't.
nobody else this year. He is terrible against
He
everybody else.
just save him
But
for
he's
us.
pitched twice against the Cardinals, and both times it's been boom.
Yeah, he's one of those guys, and I tell you what, the players have come and gone, but it's these pitchers that they're just off speed. They go in and out, up and down. They're not overpowering, but we just have trouble with these guys. You pound them, you hit it right into somebody. Seems like they're always one step ahead of us. And Ian Happ's the other guy. Ian Happ has owned the Cardinals since 2 or 3 years. So I do not want to see Ian Happ come up in a big situation. And I'm going to throw a third name in there now. This Pete Crow Armstrong kid. I don't think he's hit a ton of home runs except playing us. He hit two in one game. So I was like, good Lord. So they beat us. I think we were lucky to win two. And the first game we lost, like I said, 5-1, and that was the game Hendricks pitched. And hey, Sonny Gray had a quality start, but Hendricks just outpitched him. And so that's pretty much it on that game. Saturday, we had the doubleheader. And in the first game, every team goes through this. In life, you go through this. Everything goes wrong. It just seemed like we put the ball in play and we just beat it out at first, or we just hit it over the glove. And the Cardinals won that game 11-3. And Lance Lynn took advantage of the big 9 inning inning we had, 9 run inning, and kind of just held on and pitched a good game, saved the bullpen a little bit. And then the second game, I think, was maybe one of the better games. It was very competitive. And the Cardinals came up in the bottom of the eighth and scored 2 runs on an Arenado hit up the middle. We took that game 5-4, but I thought the Cubs outplayed us in that game. We just happened to hang in there and get the big hit when we needed it. The breaks, I don't think the umpiring was very good in that game, and I think the Cubs got cheated on some pitches on the corners because there was times where people would be like, "That's not a strike," and I'd be looking right at it, and I say, "Well, that was a strike." We got a gift there. So I think the Cubs were a victim of some poor umpiring in that second game, but we got it 5-4 and snuck out of town with another win. And then on Sunday, well, the Cubs just beat the crap out of us. And baseball's one of those games. Sometimes it's just not your day. Well, Sunday definitely wasn't our day. Michael has pitched terrible, and I'm starting to worry about him. And Kittredge did not pitch very well either. The rest of the bullpen that came in did fine, and Donovan was 3 for 3. Him and Burleson and Wynn have really been fantastic. And Contreras is getting hotter again, and Arenado's starting to get a little hotter. But to be honest with you, Vince, this is my true analysis of the Cardinals. We're about what we are. I don't think we're a great team, and I don't think we're a bad team. We're just a good team, and we can give anybody a good game, but anybody can give us a good game. If we play the Nationals, I think it's going to be a tough game. I think if we play the Rockies or the Marlins, it's just going to be rough. But so hang on, batting the hatches. I hope we pick up a couple helpers along the way to pick us up to another level. But right now, I think we're about I could see us being 4 games under 500 at the year, or I could see us 5 games over 500. Just how the ball drops. So that's my thoughts on the Cardinals right now.
Okay, in Cub news, I always like to start with the IL reports because they are so massive this year. Uh, Mark Leiter Jr. is up. Ethan Roberts is down. We did sign Trace Thompson to a minor league contract. Okay, I'm not throwing a party over that. Who cares? Bellinger was hit in the finger, and I'm going to go over that pretty soon. So he's on the 10-day IL, so we called Canario back up. Valencia and Assad have come off the IL. Luke Little has been put on the IL, and Biggie is back down. And in our draft in the first round, we picked up Cal Smith, third baseman from Florida State. He's a big kid, 6'3", 220 pounds. According to my expert insider, Maxwell, he's projected to possibly stay at third. In the second round, we picked up a guy named Cole Mathis, who's also a corner infielder / pitcher from the College of Charleston. But apparently he's going to give up the pitching portion of it. So let me get into the games this week because this has been a heck of a week for us. We went into Baltimore, a team who went into this season with like a year where they had not lost a series at home. We went into Baltimore and swept them, and it wasn't even close. We outscored them 21-2. The first game on Tuesday night, we win 9-2. Michael Bush 4 for 6 with a home run. Ian Happ 2 for 4 with another home run, 3 RBIs. He's hotter than Georgia asphalt in the summer. Miles Mastrobuoni, a couple of hits. He's actually starting to hit. And Jamison Tyone, just a workman. He went 6 innings, 4 hits, 2 runs, 7 strikeouts, and wasn't even close. 1-9-2. So it was like, okay, we got a good start in Baltimore, but the Orioles kill left-handed pitching, and guess who we have coming up to face the Orioles the next 2 days? We have Imanaga and we have Steele. So I'm like, oh gosh, kill left-handers. So in Wednesday's game, we went 4-0. Uh, Horner had a couple of hits. Bush had a couple of hits. Bellinger had a couple of hits, and then he got hit on the finger, broke his middle finger. So he's on the BP,
Mm.
not the BP, the
IR.
IR, IL, whatever they're calling it this time. So he's out. Swanson did have a couple of hits. Swanson seems to be starting to hit. And Morrell hit a home run that game. And Imanaga pitched 6 shutout innings. And then the bullpen preserved the shutout. So,
All
okay, we're
right.
2-0. And we've got Steele going. And I don't care who Steele's pitching against. He's going to give you a good game. Last game, he pitched a complete game, only gave up 1 run. This game, he goes 7 innings, gives up 3 hits, no runs. So now he is 2-3 with an ERA of 2.71. We went 8-0. Horner had a couple more hits. Bush had 2 more hits. Suzuki had 3 hits. Swanson had 2 more hits and a home run. Mastroboni has a couple hits. So we sweep them, and it wasn't even close. 9-2, 4-0, and 8-0. This is the Cubs team we thought we had. We had it. We thought we had a team that had 3 starters at the top who were going to be very tough to hit. And it finally just all came together. So we're feeling good going into St. Louis. And we win the first game 5-1. Horner with a couple of hits, Swanson with a couple more hits, Mastroboni with a couple of hits, Amaya with a couple of hits, and good start. And we talked about how Hendricks can throw softball style and still beat the Cardinals.
He does.
I want to dig a little deeper into Saturday's first game. We lost 11-3 to the Cardinals, and we gave up 9 runs in the first inning. There were 2 errors in that inning, both of them by the pitcher. Wisniewski, and Wisniewski is pitching because we have Jordan Wicks, who's still down, and what are we going to do? We are down to 3 starters basically. So Wisniewski, even though his last start was good, he doesn't have it between the ears. And here's a couple things I do want to highlight. The 2 errors, the one throwing error where he decided to throw it to nobody, and that opened the floodgates in the first inning. And we talked about this a few weeks ago when the Cardinals were in Chicago. Pages is hitting like under 200 for a reason. He can't hit low pitching. So don't throw him anything up in the zone. That's all he can hit's up in the zone. And the hit that he had, drive in a couple of runs, was up in the zone, and it drove me nuts. People ask, why did he leave? Why did Counsell leave Wisniewski in for 3 innings? Because we're depleted in pitching. We have a double header that day. He had to eat innings.
You got to take one for the team.
So we did have a couple of home runs. Suzuki hit a home run. Wisdom came off the bench and hit a home run, so we won't see him for 3 more weeks. But after Wisniewski pitched 4 innings, gave up 11 runs. Only 4 of them were earned, but he was the one who did the error. After that, hey, we shut the Cardinals out for the last 5 innings. So
yes, you did.
Woohoo! Actually, it was just 4. So in that second game, we lost 5-4, and this was a classic game we have had this year where we have the lead late, and then Porter Hodge, who has pitched really good for us, he just couldn't hold the lead. So the Cardinals came back and beat us 5-4, and that's a game we should have had.
I think so too.
We didn't. And so Sunday, we're all kind of feeling a little melancholy. And then the game begins, and we just plummet the ball. We had 6 home runs. Suzuki a couple hits, Happ a couple hits, Morrell a couple hits, Nito a hit. There was a home run. Tyone 5 2/3 innings, 7 hits, 3 runs. Does his workmanlike thing to go to 7-4. But going back to the Pages thing, There's a reason Pete Crow Armstrong is batting 200 because he can't hit a high fastball. Cannot hit a high fastball. He cannot catch up to it.
And you hit the low ones.
At it. So the 2 home runs the PCA hits, his second and third home run of his career, both of them were low breaking balls. But when he down low and got them, I'm thinking, all right, at least the Cubs aren't the only stupid team
Yeah.
that don't read the scouting report. PCA is going to be a really good, possibly great player. He's got all the tools, but right now he cannot catch up to a high fastball. And I can't believe we got 2 little breaking balls that were down and he knocked them out.
They knocked him out.
Burrell hit a couple of home runs. Now, a couple of weeks ago, Swanson hit a home run and brought back something from 10 years ago, the dab.
Oh,
Whatever.
yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, whatever that is.
It's corny, it's stupid, it's past its time, and it was a joke that he brought it back. So the Cubs have kind of adopted the dab, and lo and behold, we're winning, okay? Now, PCA is a cocky guy. He knows he's good. If he was not playing for my team, he would be one of those players I don't like because he's that cocky. Christopher Morel is the nicest, sweetest, friendliest guy on the face of the earth. Okay. So both of them had 2 home runs in that game. Both of them did the dab rounding the bases. This is what hacked me off. When Jim Edmonds calls out Morel, saying, I don't like this guy, act like, you're 229 hitter, whatever, blah, blah, blah. Just trashed another player. I get that. I get it from this standpoint. Jim Edmonds is a Cardinal fan. He's ingrained in the organization. He works for them. And it's not fun for people who work for the organization when your rival is beating the snot out of you. And it's not fun to watch Christopher Morel hit 2 home runs or Pete Crow Armstrong hit 2 home runs. It's not fun. But he let his emotions get the best of him, and he called out the wrong player because Christopher Morel is a classy guy, and everybody in baseball knows it. Other teams love this guy. Everybody in baseball does not like PCA. He's the cocky one, and I don't know why Jim Edmonds chose to call out Christopher Morel instead of PCA. He shouldn't have called out any of them because, by golly, your team celebrates. Everybody celebrates. This is not the 1970s anymore. This is modern baseball. We celebrate. Other teams celebrate. Nobody was saying we need to hang Joaquin Andujar when he got the final outs of the World Series and did the shotgun or
Yeah.
the shooting thing. The day of trotting around the bases with that being classy are over because you know what? People don't want classy. They want entertainment, and it's more entertaining to watch Fernando Tatis Jr. round the bases, do the little shuffle and all this other stuff. That's entertaining to people, and that's what brings in fans. So I'm going to give him a mulligan here because, like I said, I do understand it's not fun to watch your team get the snot kicked out of them. But I do think it would have been more appropriate if he would have called out PCA because he was dabbing too when he was rounding the bases. Guy had 1 major league home run coming into the game. And suddenly he thinks he's Babe Ruth. Yeah, call him out. Christopher Morel has a track record. He's a power hitter. When you look at his numbers and you compare them, of course, he doesn't have the number of at-bats. This is the first year. He's third year in baseball. First time he's a full-time player. His numbers compare with who? Kyle Schwarber's. Not high average, but as far as home runs per at-bats, he's right there with Kyle Schwarber, hitting long, monstrous home runs. That's what he's paid to do. I just wish he wouldn't have called out anyone, but if you're going to call out somebody, why did you pick on like the nicest guy on the team? Why not pick on this cocky guy who has no track record yet, except that he said 200 and only hit 1 home run and can be thrown out stealing bases? So that's my little rant on Jim Edmonds. So
I just don't like showing up someone like I remember when last year when Contreras had a real good game, and it might have been Chicago, and he kind of I thought he went a little too far. He was like being disrespectful to the Cub fans, and I was like, "Ooh, don't do that, don't do that." But it happened, and now what can I do? But I was like, I don't like that. Just be happy. I'm not big on the big bat flips. I think that's a little disrespectful. But be happy, be joyful. Like Joe Carter running around the bases after he hit the big home run against the Phillies. Of course, that's seventh game or in the World Series. But I didn't see it. They only like I heard Edmund say something about it, but I only see him go around like second. I saw the dab thing, and I was like, that's not. I don't think that's out of hand. But one of my favorite moments this year was Skeens was pitching against Otani, and he fouled off a bunch of pitches. It was 3-2, and Skeens struck out Otani, and Otani just went there, and Skeens just waited and caught the ball, and it was business as usual. And the next at bat, Otani hit a ball with I think a 3-2 count, like 450 feet, and Otani didn't. He just turned, ran, and Skeens caught the ball. It was almost like a replay, but two different results. I kind of thought, whoa, this is like old school. This is like how it used to be. And I kind of like that, but I don't have a problem with that. And I kind of winced when he said it like, ooh, man, I don't think that was too out of line or anything like that. So I
And
apologize. As a Cardinal fan, I apologize to the Cub fans because I'm glad he's it was just I think more of a joyful exuberance, and that was all. It wasn't mean spirited or nothing.
it, that was a statement. If Carlton Fisk was in the booth, I get it. Jim Edmonds, he liked to be a little
Yeah, he's a little cocky.
center of attention. I got
Yeah,
Flair. All the stories of how he would slow up so he could dive after the ball.
yeah,
Yeah, that's not
he's
urban legend.
showman.
That,
Yeah,
he's a showman, and then he's calling out someone for doing the kind of. I mean, he was
yeah.
before the era where they would do the stuff running around the bases, but I kind of look at it this way: the pitchers always had control of that thing, because if you showboated the pitcher or if you had any kind of celebration, the pitcher, it was just baseball then, could take a ball and threaten your life and
Yeah.
try to kill you. I
Oh
mean,
yeah.
they could do
Pressure
that.
back. Yeah.
Um, Drysdale, the worst one of all. So
Gibson
the
was no
pitchers,
schoolboy choir boy.
yeah,
He'd not get you.
and many times pitchers after a big strikeout or something, they let out a lot of emotion. That's been going on forever. So pitchers have
That's
always had, okay, it's
that's
okay for
true.
the pitcher to be emotional, but the hitter, you have to be businesslike. Now, man, when I was a kid and I hit a home run and I hit a few when I was a kid, I I I I did not just put my head down, I'm running the bases, I'm looking for my friends, I'm looking for my parents. Look what I did. Pretty cool. One trying to show up the other team. Because trust me, I was Dave Kingman when I was a kid. I would strike out or I'd hit the ball far. That was it. I had two extremes. And I remember striking out many times, and my friend Phil uh, lived right across the alley from me. One game, he struck me out, and he, yeah, on the mound and everything. I'm walking back with the bat. Next to bat, I hit a home run off of him. So I round the bases and I'm like slapping everybody's hand. Next time at bat, Phil hits me in the leg.
Oh, Phil. Yeah, it's baseball. I just kind
Uh,
of love all that. And, as long as you're not showing somebody up though and doing the DX thing or, something like that. There's no need for that.
now, um, before we move on to Jeremy Connor, of course,
Oh, Jimmy.
I do want to say this: the Cubs are kind of like in that teeter area. Are we going to be buyers or sellers? That's going to be dictated how the next few weeks go. I will say this: I like how we played last week, a 5-2 week against two very good teams. Our rival, we split in St. Louis and beating one of the top teams, sweeping them in their ballpark. We got the Diamondbacks coming up. Then I think we got the Reds. One of the saving graces for the Cubs is that we do have a much easier schedule in July, August, September than we've had the first part. So we're going to start seeing some of the easier teams. But looking at our team, thinking if we're sellers, who can we trade? Uh, Tyone,
Oh yeah.
or who else? Nico Horner, because
Well,
we're not. Nobody wants our catching Amaya or Thomas Nito. Nobody wants them. Third base is Morale, who's kind of been more designated hitter. We're not going to give up on him. Too much potential. Swanson's locked in that contract, and he's hitting 200, and he's not playing up to that contract. Defensively, he's doing good, but no one's going to want that contract. Second base, Warner. Yeah, yeah, we keep
everybody want him. Yeah.
and we've got Matt Shaw coming up. We have options, so Horner could be trade bait. Michael Bush, he ain't going anywhere.
Yeah.
He is the fine of the season for us. Right field, no one's going to want Suzuki. He has completely underperformed for the contract we signed him for. And Suzuki last year, for the last 2 months, was I think the second best hitter in baseball. I'm hoping he can duplicate that again. One thing Suzuki is he's a designated hitter on any other team. He cannot play the field. He is terrible. And this is a guy who won gold gloves in Japan. So I don't know what happened with him. Center field, could we trade Bellinger? Possibly. But man, that contract he has, he's got all the power the next 2 years. He can, I mean, he can say, I'm re-upping, I'm re-upping. Okay, there's 30 million, another team's going to be on the hook for. He's having an okay season, but he's not playing up to that kind of contract. So who would want him? Plus, now he's got a broken finger, may not be back till August. Hap, no trade. Like Suzuki, no trade. Hap would be someone that people would be interested in, but he married a Chicago girl. He's been with the team since 2017. I don't think he wants to go anywhere.
Right.
I mean, um,
Yeah.
Imanaga's not going anywhere. Steele's not going anywhere. Wicks isn't going anywhere. So it's not like we can be sellers and get rid of a ton. So it makes more sense for us to be buyers, if you ask me. I can see getting rid of Nico, even Max, who's Nico's biggest fan, say, yeah, get rid of Nico. That may be the best thing. I can see them getting rid of Nico if Shaw's ready. But I think the best avenue for the Cubs right now is to stand pat and try to get the bullpen healthy and possibly some way, somehow acquire a catcher that can at least give us some offense and a little bit of defense. Because when Thomas Nito is making your starting catcher look terrible, and Thomas Nito is not a great catcher, Tomas, excuse me, got catching problems. So anyway, but he
Mm.
doesn't have catching problems.
Well, he has no problem.
Cardinals or Jeremy Connor.
Jimmy Connor.
Comes a time in every man's life when he needs some advice on relationships. You need to listen to the podcast DMDR, which stands for Dating, Marriage, Divorce, Remarriage, from my good friend Jeremy Connor, the Dr. Phil of the Boot Hill. You can find DMDR on Spotify or whatever platform you choose to listen to your podcast. All right. So, JJ, what is your assessment of the first half of the season? Cardinals in general?
I think our division is pretty equal. The Brewers have a little lead on us, but I don't think they're that much better. I think they've had sometimes things just go your way, and they pull pitchers out of nowhere who's done pretty good for them. But I don't think they're that much better than whoever's in last place in our division right now. I don't know, the Reds or the Pirates or the Cubs, or I know it ain't us in last,
I
but
think we're tied with the Reds for
you're
last.
tied with the Reds. But you guys are not a last place team. Anybody in our division, but I tell you what, it's going to be tough. The Pirates are going to be playing as hard as they can against the other four of us, the Reds, the Cubs, the Cardinals, Brewers. This is going to be good. I hope we see a lot of. This is why I don't. This even schedule. I know it's for whoever has the best record will get home field advantage and all that. I guess that's all right. But man, I miss the days where we played each other 18 times and down the stretch. It's just divisional play all the way to the playoffs. Those days are kind of over now, but it's gonna be fun. watch not only us playing all these teams, but all the other matchups. The Brewer and I sit and watch a Red Pirate game any day of the week. That'll be fun. So I think every team in our division is flawed, and every team in our division has strengths, and some of them have different strengths and weaknesses. And let's just see what happens. But whoever the last man standing is, I'm rooting for them to go and take it to the Phillies and the Dodgers and the Braves, because I do think the Braves and the Dodgers have kind of slipped a little. The Phillies are still red hot, but I think any team in our division could give those teams a good run for their money. So that's kind of my thing. I love watching the individuals. Every team's got guys on it I love. Um, I actually think we played a little bit over our head. I think we're pretty much a 500 team, but I think we played a little bit better since Mother's Day. For some reason, something happened on Mother's Day, and we've gotten hot. But I think I don't know about the second half. It scares me to death, Vince, about the second half of the season.
I love our division,
I do
and
too.
it's not a weak division. We don't have a Colorado. We don't have a White Sox. We don't have um, an Oakland. Um, the team, the the two best starting staffs in the division, I think, are Pittsburgh and Cincinnati.
You think they're better than you guys? Your starting staff,
It,
the
unless
Reds?
we're on three starters right now,
Well,
so
that's true. Your top three, I think, are better than their top three. No, I do think that myself. I see
I
that.
I don't I don't think I don't think we have anybody in the division, and I'm including the Reds with Hunter Green. I'm including the Brewers with
Peralta.
what's his name Valencia. What's the guy's name?
They have a pitcher Peralta as like their ace, isn't it?
Peralta. Yeah, that's yeah. Sorry, I don't think anybody in this division can match up with Paul Skeens because I
Oh yeah,
truly think that right
something
now
special.
he's probably the best in the National League. I've seen him pitch three times, twice against the Cubs and one other time, and then I saw him in the All-Star game. He's for real. The control, the fastball that explodes, the secondary pitches, they're unreal. Um, so I mean the Reds went into New York and did they sweep or take two of three? The Reds spanked the Yankees around good.
Oh yes, they did. They all three.
Anybody,
I think it took all three.
yeah, nobody wants to play the teams in our division. I can guarantee you that because we have some staffs in our division that can put you in a slump for a couple of weeks. That's how good the pitching is. And that's I think the Cardinals have a really good offense that's probably just going to get better as these young players get older. The the Cardinals have the weakest pitching in the division,
Sorry, yeah.
weakest starting pitching, weakest bullpen clearly belongs to the Cubs. So, um, but I love where this division is, and I know it was funner when it was an unbalanced schedule and we saw teams 19 times in our own division. But right now, I don't want to have to play Cincinnati or Pittsburgh 19 times and then listen to all these fans. Why can't we beat these teams? They suck. But they don't suck. They're
Oh,
really good. They're really young and they're really hungry and they're going to be hard to beat night in and night out. As far as the rest of the National League, I think the Brewers are probably going to win the division because I just see that we're all going to they've created enough of a cushion. If everybody just kind of beats up on everybody,
that's
they're
true.
going to stay where they're at.
That's good.
Um, and the Phillies, the Braves, and the Dodgers are really good. It's funny because one of them will get hot and you think, oh, the Phillies are the best team in the National League. And then it's the Braves get hot. Oh, look at the Braves. Oh, wait a minute. The Dodgers are extremely hot. Um, and the Diamondbacks are not out of it, even though they're a few games below 500.
You're
They're
right.
in the wild card race, and we saw what happened last year when they got in. And the Padres, I still think that's a very talented team. And if they get into the playoffs, they could make some noise. What do you think about the other divisions in the National League?
You know, Mark has written so many things. He's such a Met lover. And I tell you what, the Mets have the talent. If they can just put it together, I don't put them out of it. Uh, I see, you're right. That was a good analogy about the Brewers. They've got that cushion, and we're all going to beat the crap out of each other. And if they could just hold the fort, and it just seems like sometimes things are meant to be. Things just seem to be going their way. And they've got some hurt players that are coming back. They may not be the same. This is their window because Adonis is on his last year of his contract. Yelich seems to have found himself again. He kind of had those 2 or 3 great years and then kind of just became a good player. Now he's back to being one of the elite players. I like what you're thinking about there. The Phillies, though, I don't see them having any weakness right now. That team is solid, and they've been doing this with JT Realmuto having surgery and Schwarber and Harper being out. And now they're
Trey
back.
Turner was out for a huge chunk.
Oh yeah, Trey Turner. Who forget about, we almost forget about him. There's so many good players on that team, and they've got like a four-headed monster at the top of that rotation. That might be the best rotation in baseball. I know people talk about Seattle. They've got a good rotation, but man, Philadelphia with that offense and defense behind them, Seattle don't have any hitting. I don't see Seattle hanging on to that division. Houston has seemed to found their way, and don't count Texas out either. The Texas Rangers, they've been there, done that. If they get healthy at all, and Seattle struggles, they can pop back in there too. But yeah, in our division, over there, Atlanta's just. I'm with you. That's just a talented team, and they've been playing together forever. And the Dodgers seem to have slipped, but they haven't had Mookie Betts. And that whole pitching staff's hurt. They've got Yamamoto, who they played a lot of money to. He's hurt. Did they just put him on the 30 or 60-day DL? I thought he got moved to like a longer DL or IR. I'm sorry, IR.
I with this break, I haven't been paying attention to anything. So
They've been moving some people around, and they've got Kershaw hurt, Walker Bueller. They had a kid like Bobby Jones or Bobby Miller who was so good last year,
now, oh
and now
gosh,
they've sent him down to the
Vincent's out.
minors.
Yeah.
They're not. They've kind of lost their way, and they're such a talented team. And I mean, they went out and bought a roster second to none. But and Altani's doing everything he can, and I love William Smith. Will Smith is a guy. He's underrated. He's great. We know who he is, but I think in all of baseball, when you think of the Dodgers, he's not even the top 4 or 5 guys you're thinking of. He's down there, but that dude is a top-notch catcher right there. You know,
Well,
you
the
guys ought to
Dodgers,
pry Will Smith from the Dodgers. That's who you need.
yeah, they're not getting ready. It's fascinating because the Dodgers are so high on Gavin Lux, they made him the second baseman, and they traded Michael Bush, who was a second baseman in the minors. We've made him a third baseman, and the only reason they continue to march Gavin Lux out there is because they have no other alternatives. And I bet they're like, maybe we should have held on to that Bush guy, because I'm telling you, if they would have offered the Cubs Gavin Lux, we would have offered a better package. Because
Yeah.
Gavin Lux, I mean, he could still end up being a really good player, but he has not lived up to the hype thus far. And I'm just thinking my lucky stars that we have Michael Bush.
But that shows you how good the Dodgers minor leagues are. They are great at developing these players. And they all look like they're kind of like the Dallas Cowboys of the MLB. They all are these good looking, big, broad shouldered guys that come out. They can hit the daylights out of the ball, and they come up with all these pitchers. Since I've been watching baseball since '74, it's just a line of Tommy John and Don Sutton and Bert Hooton and Fernando Venezuela and on and on and on. All these great pitchers, and the Cardinals, we might have developed 3 really good ones since '74. So I applaud them and their minor league system. It's just second to none, I think.
Now in the American League, you've talked about the Astros and Rangers, and I do see that the Astros and Rangers just got too much firepower, and they're going to overtake the Mariners. It's hard to pitch for a team where you feel like you've got to shut, even no matter how talented you are, you feel like you got to shut out the other team or only give up 1 or 2 runs every night. That wears on a pitcher. It's very difficult. And pitchers get mentally fatigued, especially when they get to the dog days of August. That's when hitting starts to really explode because pitchers hit that mental barrier. So I see that the experience of the Astros and the Rangers are going to overtake the Mariners unless the Mariners can add a bat or they really need a couple of bats
You're
to get
right.
that offense going at the trade deadline. So we'll see what happens there. But
And Julio Rodriguez has had I don't know what happened to him. He he's just struggling this year. If they can get him to bounce back too, he's such a superstar player, but this year he has not had a good year.
yeah, that just shows you how hard it is in baseball. You see every year you see these, a couple years ago when he came up, it was like, oh my gosh, this guy's great. And he was great his rookie year, and he was really good last year, and this year he's fallen. It's like last year at this time, we're like, my gosh, Corbin Carroll, he is so awesome. Corbin Carroll's having a terrible year. Baseball is so difficult to maintain. And then you have players who have 3 or 4 good years and you think they've figured it out and they're entering their prime, their late 20s, like Javi Baez, and they just fall off the table. It is so hard to maintain. And that's why the best baseball players are people who can adjust to what's going on. And that's not just adjust from year to year. That's from pitch to pitch. When you can adjust and you can realize what people are doing and you can adjust within your own skill level, uh, that's how you become a great player. Um, so
You're
I
right, it's hard. And I've seen it go the other way. I've seen guys struggle and just barely stay in the league, and then all of a
Jerickson
sudden,
Profar,
oh, you're right. He gets better every year.
31 years old, finally has the season everybody thought he was going to have 10 years ago.
That's
He's an
right.
all-star starter. I mean,
JD Martinez, I always thought of him. It took him a while to get going. David Ortiz took him a while. He was in Minnesota and he was he had talent, but just not very consistent. And all of a sudden, I don't know, he ended up in Boston and everything, the rest is history. But sometimes it just goes like that.
yeah, a lot of people, Hall of Famer Phil Negro had a brother Joe.
Yes. Yeah.
Joe Negro was a pedestrian middle reliever throughout his 20s. And then in his 30s, he figured it out. He was a knuckleballer like his brother, but he figured it out after playing in the league for 8 or 9 years, and he became a 20-game winner. It does happen that way sometimes. It's like, where's this guy been? All this
That's
time. So in the American League, in the Central, I picked the Tigers to win it. They're not going to win it. The only thing that I did know was I thought that the Royals would be much better. I thought the Guardians and Twins were going to fall down. The only thing I was right about is that the White Sox were going to be bad and the Royals got better. The Guardians have continued their winning ways. Um, Juan, Ramirez, Falsey. I mean, they've got some studs on that team.
the Naylor brothers
Yeah.
over there.
And the Twins with that power and Correa leading that team. And I thought losing Sonny Gray, they were going to have a huge letdown, and they're in the thick of it. And the Royals, my gosh, my,
Much
my
better.
my American League team, to watch them be so bad for the last couple of years, and you could see it coming. You could see it coming. So Bobby Witt Jr. is going to be stud. Vinny Pasquantino looks like he's going to be pretty good. Salvador Perez has got to be 71 years old now, and he's still hitting like crazy and still catching. Uh,
Yes.
and then when they got Cole Reagans last year, and I saw him pitch, I thought, because you could see the pitching was not terrible. It wasn't put together, but with him coming in, picking up Seth Lugo, who's an all-star too, that team
Walker.
Reminds me so much of the 2015 Royals, who seemed to come out of nowhere and make this playoff run and went all the way to the World Series, and then or the 2014, then in 2015 they actually won the World Series. So I love that Central Division and how they've been good. And even though the Tigers have sorely disappointed me, but we have the big division.
Oh yeah, the big boys.
Orioles, Yankees, and the Red Sox have just kind of plugged away and got themselves back into it.
You're right. Tampa Bay has always been like, I don't know, magic voodoo they use, but they're not. I mean, they're not up this year where they usually are, but they're still. I think aren't they within striking distance still?
They're about
Tampa
two
Bay,
games out of first.
but in the wild card, I think all three wild card teams might come. Or three teams out of that could get to the playoffs. That's how good they are. The Red Sox surprised people. Nobody thought the Red Sox. You lost some of the players. Bogarts left. Chris Sale, who they thought was gone, done his best years behind him. He's went to Atlanta, revitalized himself. But they have found some good players playing good ball. They got a good coach. I tell you what, the team that has surprised me the most is the Toronto Blue Jays. 5 years ago, we thought, look at all this young talent coming. They got a window there for the next 6 years. They could win multiple championships or be in multiple World Series. And sometimes it's just a chemistry thing, you know? And plus, you're in a very competitive division over there. But that's the team that's been the biggest surprise to me is the Toronto Blue Jays.
I can see this. The Blue Jays have to get rid of uh, um, Guerrero Jr. or um,
Bichette?
Bo Bichette. They can't sign both of them, and they know that. And they're having a disappointing season, and it's going nowhere. Now, the Cubs have one enticing trade piece, and that's Nico. And Nico would be cheaper because Nico's tied up for a few years. So you're going to have him for a few years. And he's a good player. He's a gold glove second baseman. He's kind of a throwback. He's not a power guy. He's a put the bat on the ball guy, doesn't strike out much. Good runner. Very
Takes
smart.
good at bats.
Yeah,
Real good
very
at
smart.
bats.
Yeah, gonna get the pitcher to throw a lot of pitches. There's a lot of things to like about him. How about Nico and one of our prospects uh, to the Blue Jays for Guerrero Jr., who we could put at first, and Michael Bush can go to second, his natural position,
Oh,
and like Jansen, their backup catcher.
there you go. They got three
He's
good
not having
catchers
a
over
great year, but he's been an all-star before, and he's better than what we got. Boy, I would like to see that. I don't want to see Nico go. I love his makeup. He's a hard worker. He's a leader. But if we're gonna acquire something that's really gonna help, then he is expendable. But could you imagine how long our lineup gets
there. Exactly.
with uh we would have Swanson batting ninth. Well, probably the catcher batting ninth, Swanson batting eighth. The lineup suddenly gets pretty long.
And
I like that.
Vladdy in Wrigley Field, they would fall in love with him over
Oh
there.
yeah. And it
That's a must see at bats because he would be in the middle of that lineup and look out. And
Yep.
he'd have protection in that lineup. And you plug him in over there at first base, and Bush is, I think this is just the beginning. He's going to get better and better. And you hate to see a Nico Horner leave, but you could fix two things with one good, really, really good player.
Yeah. It does not answer our bullpen issues, but I think our bullpen issues, when we get healthy, our bullpen is not this bad. We're waiting for Ben Brown to get back. Um, Caleb Killian, his first bullpen session was hitting 100. So we have the hard throwers that I think is necessary in modern baseball for your bullpen. So I think that might iron itself out. But boy, Guerrero Jr. in that lineup and a fix for the catching position, I can see that.
Ooh.
I can
I tell you
dream.
what, Tommy Edmonds been playing down at Springfield, and he's been doing pretty good. Each game, it seems like he's getting more and more. I hate to say this, Nolan Gorman. I love the power this kid has, but he strikes out. He's on pace for about 200 strikeouts and probably 33 home runs, something like that, let's say.
That's Kyle Schwarber.
Yes, he's
I,
Kyle Jr.
would you take that? I would.
Yeah, but I
It's
would probably, and he's a good defender. He's made himself a very good defender. But Tommy Edmonds coming, I think he takes better at bats. I think if you could put Gorman perhaps DH him, I like how Contreras is catching and Podges is catching, and they're DH and he's DHing when he's not catching. I like that, but maybe Edmund somehow getting that lineup, I think would just be a more over the long run, just taking better at bats because you put him with Burleson and Donovan and some of those guys that take good at bats. Contreras takes very good at bats and just work. That's the Cardinals. That's our MO this year. Work the pitchers to death. Skeens, with the only team he didn't pitch 6 innings against was us. He went 5 1/3 and threw over 100 pitches, and we got him out of the game. And our bullpen came in to make we going in the bullpen, we got a shot. If we don't wear our guys out, but that's kind of been our MO. Take good at bats, work the pitchers to death, get them out by the fifth inning, and get in the bullpen. And we pulled a lot of games out that way this year.
See, I like what I have seen from Burleson, and I
Oh
like what
yeah,
I have seen from Gorman. I I I don't mind the strikeouts and the low batting average if he can hit uh 33 plus home runs a year. I mean that's what Kyle
yeah.
Schwarber does. That's what Christopher Morel's looking like. He's going to be low 200 hitters with a ton of home runs. I kind of like that myself. So
Yeah, if you just got one guy like that in your lineup, okay, one guy, we could do that. We were striking out last year. We just struck out way too much. We had about four of those guys in our lineup last year. So I'm with you, Gorman. Man, if he could just put a little more bat on the ball, I'd be more happy with that. Them strikeouts are kind of hurting though. But yeah, you're right. He's a threat every time he comes up. He's a threat, and the Cardinals have enough players with can righty and lefty you to death. They got a lot of left-handed hitters. So that's one good thing we got right there.
um you mentioned Sale, who's probably the only pitcher in baseball right now that could possibly win 20 this year. He's got 13 victories.
What about Ranger Suarez from the Phillies? Ranger, doesn't
What's
he
he?
have 11, maybe 11, 12, maybe in there? They've got about three guys around 10, right in that 10 area.
Yeah,
So,
but
uh,
the All-Star game is about a week later. I was talking to a friend and
it,
she said, "Isn't the All-Star game like later?" I'm thinking, "Yeah, it is like a week later."
it did.
But
Yeah.
we're actually almost to the 100, and we're
Yes.
like two-thirds through the season. So to have 10 victories right now, I don't know if you can get yourself up to 20 victories, but
Oh,
Sale,
that's true.
I think Sale's got a good shot at it because that Atlanta team's loaded, and he's just got a good chance of getting more victories than a
Plus,
guy.
the Braves are chasing, and I think their games are going to be where the Phillies may have enough lead where they don't have to put, they can don't have to put the foot on the gas the whole way. They can get in just a good start, 5 innings, get in there, and you know, get them ready for the playoffs. Where the Braves are a little bit further back, and they may have to fight for a playoff spot. I see them being the number one wild card, but you never know.
A couple more players that have surprised me this year. Um, Stephen Kwan, just
Outstanding.
unreal season, and a lot of times when his average is way up there, like 360, and everybody else is like bettling down there. Um, but he's added more power this year, and usually when you add more power, you kind of sacrifice a few
Batting
points in the
average.
batting average. But man, he's just if he can maintain this, he's going to be the star that they always thought he was going to be in Cleveland. Um, Seth Lugo, I really do like to see. Always been a good pitcher, kind of an under the radar pitcher. Goes to Kansas City and he's shining. Pitched in the All-Star game yesterday. And then, of course, we've mentioned Sale, who I wouldn't say came out of nowhere, but I certainly wasn't expecting him to, after 3 or 4 years of injuries and not being able to stay on the field. I just thought he's toast. And suddenly it's like, well, no, he's back. So,
Yeah, fantastic. I love watching that Oakland kid, that reliever. I love watching that kid. The A's have some good young players. I know they're not a good team, but they've got some good young pieces. They're drafting pretty high, and they're getting more and more prospects. So I'd love to see them back. That's a good, what an organization, a franchise, and I'd like to see them back to a little glory. Like it kind of hurt me when the Orioles were so bad for about 3 or 4 years, and I'm glad to see them back and in the running. You know, the Gunnar Henderson, that kid, you say it's so hard to stay a top-notch player, and he's doing it again. Aaron Judge may break his own record of 62 home runs, and I tell you what, the Yankees would be lost without him. He has lived up to that contract and being the captain of that team, and that is truly a guy who's on a pace to, maybe go to the Hall one day. But right now, it's just so much fun watching him play. And he's going to go down, I think, as one of he'll have a plaque, if anything, out there in center field with the other great Yankees.
yeah, I'll tell you, it's been a disappointing season for the Cubs. It's been a better season for the Cardinals than last year.
So far.
Um,
Yeah, oh, but yeah,
it,
last year. Woo,
it's like any other baseball season. I'm still enjoying it. So
amen.
I've
Still love
watched
it.
I've watched the Cubs lose 90 games, and I still had a heck of a time watching baseball for the year. So that
Oh,
part doesn't change. I still just love the game, and I think this has been a great season. And I am so proud of our division, of all the teams being good.
yeah,
Nobody's great in this division, but man, the talent level is there in this division. And for people who kept saying the National League Central is the weakest division in baseball, no, no,
yeah.
they are not the weakest division.
Not anymore.
They are a good division. JJ, we've been talking a long time. We better open up some baseball cards.
All right. All right. That sounds you're right up my alley right now. Woohoo.
I'll go ahead and start. I've got Dondrus, and I have ordered a new shipment of baseball cards. This is my last one
Oh,
um, that I have for a while. And uh, this is 1988 Dondrus. And I start with a puzzle piece. Uh, that somehow is something to do with Stan Musial.
hmm.
That's all I can tell you.
I think it's the from the man. I think it's the T for the man up
Could
there.
be. Could be.
Could
All
be.
right. I'm going to say one Hall of Famer.
I'm going two. Let's go for two.
Pitcher for the Brewers, Bill Wegman.
I
He
remember
was
him.
pretty decent.
Yeah.
Very
Love those
good.
hats, those brewer hats.
Former Cardinal farmhand, catcher Terry Kennedy made an all-star team for the Padres.
Yeah, really good player. Nice career.
Hall of Famer,
Hey, one.
Alan Trammell.
Alan Trammell. Yes.
There's one.
A great player.
I love this pitcher. I wish he could have sustained longer. But he was a bulldog on the mound, a World Series champion for the Twins, also pitched for the Mets, Frank Viola. Frank
Sweet
Sweet
Viola.
Music Viola.
Yes. I tell you what, he that year in the World Series, he just owned the Cardinals.
Oh yeah, great
He
pitcher.
was another level.
Another great pitcher who just wasn't quite Hall of Fame level, but pitched for some couple of World Series winners. Also went to college at Southern Illinois University. Dave Stieb, former All Star.
Oh, one of the great Toronto pitchers of all time. Yeah.
Yeah. Da, 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 da. Listen to these innings pitched: 278 as a rookie, 267, 265. My golly, this guy took the ball.
Yes. He's a good
Uh,
pitcher. Solid.
Catcher for the Mariners, Scott Bradley, decent career.
Barely remember him.
Here is one of our favorites. You and I
Ah.
play for the Cubs and the Cardinals. The guy with the golden arm, Sean Dunston.
Oh, love him. He did everything good.
And this guy was a good pitcher. Didn't have a long success, but always like a number two, number three for the Giants in the mid 80s. Kelly Downs.
Yes. I thought he was going to be bigger. I thought he was going to be more dominant. I really did.
Yeah, yeah, he had great stuff. For the Pirates, shortstop Felix Fermin.
Oh, yes. I think there's been a lot of Felix Fermins. I think there's two or three of those through the history of baseball.
Pitcher for the Reds, Ted Power.
Nice
Decent
career.
looking arm. Ooh, former All-Star catcher. I'd watch these games when I was in college, watching WTBS. Uh, Ozzie Virgil.
Yes, I remember Ozzie Virgil.
Um, and this was a guy who eventually became a cult leader and led a bunch of people to Guyana where they drank Kool-Aid and killed themselves. Jim Jones.
Oh, man. I didn't know he played for the Giants. Don't drink the Kool-Aid, kids.
Oh, and here's a really good Cardinal pitcher. Uh, Whitey had no alternative in '85 but to throw him out there again when his arm was ready to fall off. But Joe McGrain.
Joe McGrain. I think three really good years. I thought he was going to go to the next level, but he had three really good years with the Cardinals.
Yeah, that '87 World Series against the Twins when he kept running him out there as a rookie and just kept responding. Uh, Pitcher for the Phillies, Mike Jackson,
Oh, yeah.
and a really good pitcher for the Astros and Giants, Bob Nepper. So
You know what? He was a very good pitcher. I would say a number. The Astros had a great pitching staff. He would have been a number two on most teams, but that Astro team was loaded with pitching.
15 victories, 17 victories, just consistent. Great
Yeah,
guy. So
great
one
player.
Hall of Famer, much better than what
All
we had a
right.
couple weeks ago. So
Well, good call. You got that one right. Well, Vince, I've got something special right here. First, I got a pack. But first of all, I had such a fun. I bought that pack where you only get one card and it's a retired player. And I got Jim Palmer. Well, they have active players. This is 2024 active archive signature series. And it's got Acuna Jr. on it. And the big card in here is the Otani. There's also the Acuna Jr., but everybody's wanting the Otani card. Well, when you open it, because it's an active player, you get a card in here, and it's in a real nice case, but it says, "Congratulations, you have a autographed card of Manny Machado." But it's just a card. Yeah. So you have to open this up. It's magnetic, and you scratch that off, and you get download an app and you send it to the Topps company. So Brody was tracking his card and it got here today, and I got a Manny Machado autograph card. Now I'll show it. There's the Manny Machado. There's his signature, and it's Manny Machado right there, and it's got his best season on the back. Now don't remove that, but it's got numbers. Now, some of these are 20, there's like 25 cards of it. But this is, I don't even know what this is worth, but it's one of one. There's only one of these cards that Topps put out. I That may put some high value on that card. I'm kind of excited. I don't know what it's
awesome.
worth. Yeah. So I got the Manny Machado autograph card. Now, Brody read off all the players that you could get. And I'll be honest with you, probably 100 of the 120 I was like excited about. So I was like, oh man, I love that guy. And Jose Ramirez is one of them, but everybody's wanting the Otani card. Anyway, I thought I'd just show you that because that's kind of a cool thing. And I'm opening up 2023 Topps Chrome Platinum. These have a lot of big dollar value cards, and I there's only 4 cards in a pack. Remember the old days? Used to open them up. There'd be 12 and a pack
Yeah,
of gum, a stick of gum. All right, so oh my God, these are nice. This is 2023s. Speaking, we always mention somebody, but look at this quality of these cards. This is back when he was on the Seattle Mariners. Tarasco Hernandez. That's the guy that just won the home run derby, isn't it?
Yeah.
Look at that card. Man, I'm digging it. And there's the back of the card, kind of more of a throwback, kind of back of the card. But I am loving that. You got the big picture and then the small one of them up there. And so that, and I'm going to, there's one I'm going to save for the very end. There's only 4 cards in this thing. Israel Pineda from the Washington Nationals. Don't know much about him, but I like the look of that card. Yeah, I wish Nationals had better hats. I'm not big on that hat the Nationals
Yeah.
have right there. All right, the next one on the list is Michael Grove of the LA Dodgers. There he is. Like that card. And finally, somebody we both love, an MVP. I know him as a Montreal Expo, but you probably remember him as a Chicago Cub, the Hawk. Andre, look at that card, Vince. And I'm wearing an Expo hat. How about that? So that's my final card right there. Andre Dawson, who I love. And I actually stood in the spot at Wrigley Field that he wore out in right field before they ran me out of the stadium.
Awesome.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Well, JJ, I'm ready for the season to pick back up. The worst thing is that tomorrow there's no baseball.
I
Oh,
I I know I'm going through withdrawals.
yeah, yeah. So, but Friday picks it back up. Who do you guys got on Friday?
We got Atlanta in Atlanta.
Ah, we
I
got the
know.
Diamondbacks at home. So,
Okay. Well, they're getting hot too, so be careful, man. They're hot.
well, hopefully, with the long layoff, our pitching is reset. We can go Steele, Tyone, Imanaga, and
That's a tough one.
I like that. And
Yes, I do too.
hopefully we can get some starters back so we can get everybody back pitching. So, all right. Well, JJ, you have a great one, and we will talk to you next week.
All right.